In today's video, there's another Porter in the NBA. This one, Michael Porter Jr.'s little brother. So who is he and how can he help his new team? How's it going, everybody? My name is Troy and this is the Half Court Report. And I wanted to get this video online as fast as I could because we've had a bit of breaking news with some player movement and a player signing very late in the season. And as luck would have it, this is Michael Porter Jr.'s little brother, Jontay Porter. So before we get into who he signed with and a little bit of background on Jontay Porter, do want to remind you, if you like basketball, please consider subscribing to this channel, trying to get to 100 subscriptions by the end of the month. Okay, so why am I doing a video about Michael Porter Jr.'s little brother? So I think you're gonna, probably about a year from now, I think this is gonna look like a really good move and you're gonna know the name Jontay Porter. So let's have a little bit of background on who Jontay Porter is. So he signed with the Memphis Grizzlies a 2-year deal, and that includes the remainder of this year and then into next year as well, which is a team option. So I think this is really an under-the-radar type signing that the Grizzlies are really going to enjoy for the foreseeable future. So who is Jontay Porter? So he's 6'11", about 240 pounds. He played high school ball first in Missouri, which is where he's from, but then he and his family moved to Seattle when his dad got an assistant coaching job at the University of Washington. So he played the rest of his high school career in Seattle. And like his brother, Michael Porter Jr., he had also committed to go to the University of Washington, where his dad was coaching. But his dad ended up getting a position at the University of Missouri back in their hometown in Columbia. So he moved back with the family there, and along with that, he reclassified into the same class as his brother. So he's a year younger, but they both ended up going to the University of Missouri the same year. So you'll remember that it was the first game of the season for Mizzou, and Michael Porter Jr. played like 2 minutes. He was injured and did not come back until the NCAA tournament, ended up playing like 3 games for that entire year. Well, Jontay Porter, he played the entire season and had some pretty good numbers, especially for a guy who should have been a senior in high school. In 33 games, ended up averaging about 10 points and about 7 rebounds per game, roughly about 24 minutes per game, mostly coming off the bench. He started about 7 or 8 games, but it was mostly coming off the bench. And there were really high hopes for Jontay Porter after the end of his freshman year. Like his brother, he even declared for the draft, but he didn't hire an agent, which left him open to come back to school for his sophomore season, which he did. But before the season even started, he tore his ACL. So he was ruled out for that season, and then just a few months later, he disobeyed doctor's orders. He was out playing, tore his ACL again, which really set back his recovery time. So he was undrafted in the 2019 draft, but you need to remember that before he got injured, he was by ESPN, the number 11 prospect. So he was on his way to becoming a lottery pick if he hadn't gotten injured, but unfortunately he did. So that leaves us where we are right now, catching us up to today. The Grizzlies signed him to a 2-year deal, so that's going to be prorated for the remainder of this year at about $200,000, then about $1.5 million for next year, which is a team option. So the outlook for this season, he's not going to play. He will just continue to rehab and get healthy again. But once we get into next season, assuming he does make the roster, because remember, this is a team option, so assuming he makes the roster, he's still going to be 20 years old. He's not going to turn 21 until early November. So for the first few weeks of the season, he's going to be 20 years old. So very, very young player and fits in really well with the core that they have. of the young guys with Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, Brandon Clark, Dillon Brooks, DeAnthony Melton, who I assume they'll re-sign. So he's going to be with guys who similar in age and similar trajectory as far as growth throughout the NBA. So next season, the Grizzlies roster, you're going to have Jonas Valanciunas at the center spot. He's going to be signed for next year and the year after. You're also going to have Gorgui Dieng, who will be in the final year of his contract next year, and then you'll have Jontay Porter. Would not surprise me if at some point, and if Jontay Porter shows the Grizzlies brass what they want to see, would not surprise me if they move Gorgui Dieng in some sort of trade to make Jontay Porter the backup center. I think he could also be used as part of a trade for someone like Bradley Beal, CJ McCollum, because you got to remember the Grizzlies have 2 future first-round picks from Golden State and Utah. They're going to have all their own first-round picks. They're going to have some players in Brandon Clark who they could trade, Dillon Brooks who they could trade. Lots of good young prospects, and to get somebody back like Brad Beal or CJ McCollum, I think is a definite possibility. Then throw Jontay Porter in that mix as well. But all in all, I do think next year is going to be more of a learning experience and just getting acclimated to the NBA for Jontay Porter. I do expect him to spend a good portion of his season in the G League. And I think when he does play, it's going to be spot minutes, but I think he will be able to contribute, and especially once he gets more comfortable and gets more reps in. As far as the type of player that Jontay Porter is, he's very skilled, just like his brother. I wouldn't say he's as high level of a prospect, but still very, very good. Remember, ESPN had him number 11 in their player rankings coming out of high school. He does project to be a guy who is really going to be able to shoot it from the center position. Think of him as a stretch 5, kind of in the mold of Brad Miller, maybe Mehmet Okur, or maybe even how Brook Lopez is these days, just jacking up threes all the time. So I think he's going to be shooting a lot from the outside, and he can shoot the three at a pretty good clip as well. He's also a great passer. He has quick reads with the ball, really good court vision. I think he's a pretty skilled playmaker. This is interesting. He actually averaged more assists than he did turnovers his freshman year at Missouri, which is pretty impressive, especially for a guy who plays the center position. He's not exactly a rim protector, but on the other end, he does play pretty good team defense. So he's not going to screw up, which I think is always a plus, especially for a young player. He's a good ball handler. He can really put the ball on the floor. I think his basketball IQ is elite. I kind of compare him to Marc Gasol in that regard. Just remember how good of a passer Gasol was for the Grizzlies and how he could really set guys up, really get his teammates involved. I expect the same thing from Jontay Porter if he develops the way that I expect him to. He's also a guy who sets really good screens. He's going to be able to find the open man. He's not a great athlete by NBA standards. If you look at him when he played for Mizzou, he was pretty thick. He had, I would compare him maybe to a young Kevin Love, kind of like how he was at UCLA, still had a little bit of baby fat on him. But I think that's one of those things, once he gets in the NBA, once he works on his diet, gets into the weight room, I think that's going to come off pretty quick, because if you look at his brother, Michael Porter Jr., he doesn't have those issues, so I think it's definitely one of those things where genetically he's not going to be one of those heftier type players. So I think really the biggest concern when you look at a guy like Jontay Porter is the injury concerns. It's the same thing that plagued his brother before he came in the league. Caused him to drop all the way to number 14 for Denver to pick him. Caused him to miss all of last season with that back injury. And not only that, the Porters also have 2 sisters who also had knee and leg injuries and were forced to retire early from their basketball careers. So I think that's a concern, but you have to take the good with the bad. He comes from a basketball family. He knows how to play the game. He's very coachable, and he's a good kid. And all in all, I think it is definitely worth the risk for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's going to do it for today's video. Do be sure to subscribe to this channel if you like what you're seeing. Like and comment about what you think of the 2-year deal and what kind of career do you think Jontay Porter is going to have. My name is Troy, and I'll see you next time on the Half Court Report. Hey guys, one more thing. Here's some more videos to check out on the Half Court Report channel. I hope you like them, and thanks for watching.